to all the professors, principals, vice principals, head of departments, faculty members, and my favorite, students, the e-leaders, the young India. My name is Mustansir Mansoor Dahodwala, and I am a small part of a mission of enabling student startups. Wait, am I audible? Yeah, that's the most important question these days, actually. So, on behalf of Nava Yuvak entrepreneurs and the other partners of this event, I would like to congratulate each one of you here for coming in. I mean, that's the first step. A lot of you over here, well, I'll share the demographics, come from a lot of different universities, colleges across India. And coming on this one platform is a big thing. It's the first step. So, that's my acknowledgements to each of you. And I'm hoping everybody has a good internet on a Saturday evening to join us on this 90 to 120 minutes event where we discuss about innovation. Okay, so the first thing, thank you for coming in. Second thing is acknowledging partners. Now, without whom this could not be possible, right? So the first one is Mumbai MU Ideas, a part of Mumbai University, an era-old university that supports student entrepreneurs, right? So if a university as old as them can pull it off, we can sure do, right? Second is T5 Network. T5 Network is your partner in all matters relating to entrepreneurship, startups, and investing. Now, why mention about them? Who are they? They help you develop, nurture, and strengthen entrepreneurial mindsets amidst young minds and their young people at hearts as yours. You can see some lovely smiles coming in the audience. T5 is also building an entrepreneurial ecosystem and helps in making collaborative networks as well as invest in startups that have a high social impact. Well, I will not say much about Nava Yuvak. I would actually like to call upon Chirag sir, Chirag Dodia, Chirag.co, our Chief Growth Officer, give up an opening remarks for this event.
Yeah, thanks Mustan for setting the stage and setting the mood for the evening. And welcome sir and ma'am, Geeta ma'am and Kaustav sir for joining us today. Just to give an idea of what we do at Naviworks, and I mean, most of you have been in touch with our team for a long time to join in for this event and for giving us your time and your attention, which makes a lot of difference to us. We at Naviwork were formed around 8 years ago. I mean, me and 3 or 4 of my friends, including Gaurav, the founder, we wanted to do very little thing. We wanted to help entrepreneurs like us. So even myself, I was 18 years old, starting my own company at the time, and I wanted to get an idea of what the ecosystem can do for us. So at that time, Mumbai itself was not a huge ecosystem for any of the startups, but we wanted to help people like us, students like us. So we formed a small group. It was called Globally Forum back then, right? And after 8 years and working with hundreds of students, so many universities are across the country, and giving us a platform is what we still do now. The core value of Naviwork is only on helping students, helping startups. And the startups are built by students at a very young point of time, and that's what we want to do. So I think today's focus is going to be about how we can help colleges like yourself and your own teams and the startups that are part of your college, do their best. And we are here to support them, right? So over to Mastan, please take it forward.
Thank you so much, sir. While listening to those heavy words, I actually started sweating because we have a lot of pressure to begin. So before I call upon and invite the speakers on board, I would just like to mention the key demographics that are actually present in this one community today. To begin with, so a lot of key demographics that are on this community, this one platform today, come from across India. Like I mentioned earlier, like 10 minutes back before we started the video, we have both students and managerial side of the college or institution on this platform. And that's a huge thing, right? Both students are interested to do or foster more student entrepreneurs and the faculty. And with that support in mind, there's a long way ahead of us. Secondly, we have about 7 to 8 different universities across India that have joined us today, and about 120 plus colleges that might represent themselves today on this platform. Other than that, the most important thing when we talk about, which you're going to talk ahead as well, is collaborations and partnerships. On that note, we have a lot of different communities that are present here, both a college that has a lot, a huge like an experience in mind, and those who have just recently started. On that note, I would like to invite the keynote speakers for the day. The first speaker is Geeta Tolia. Now, respectfully, giving her giving her introduction is a huge task in itself because she's really well known and she's really successful in enabling student startups. So Geeta Tolia ma'am is a startup evangelist. She's a finance specialist and an investor. Wow. She has over 25 years of experience across various organizations and countries, including senior leadership roles at KPMG, Grant Thornton, and CEPAM, serving across different industries and in several countries, including India, Ireland, UK, Europe, and more. She's also a trainer and advisor to various institutions, playing a key role in India's startup ecosystem, working with entrepreneurs. Talking about the next speaker for the day. Kaustav sir, I've heard a lot about you from Gaurav sir, but we have been unable to meet. So greetings from my side. Kaustav sir has spent all of his professional life in startups, incubation, and the entrepreneurship ecosystem with over 24 years of experience. Wow, that's a lot. He has been deeply involved in advising, training, and mentoring entrepreneurs and various organizations within and both outside India. He's involved in businesses in India, UK, Ireland, Russia, Singapore, and Bangladesh. He's also part of the Incubation Center at SPJIMR and IIM Kolkata Innovation Park, working very closely with student entrepreneurs. The third and final panel discussion in a way, like a fireside session. Yes, ma'am. Get set, go. That is the fireside session between Geeta Tolia ma'am and Kaustav Majumdar sir, which will be in a way very partially moderated by me, Mustansir Dawadwala. So over the past 2 weeks, when we asked people to register for this event across universities across India, we also surveyed for a few questions that people would like to know. Facilitators, mentors, incubators, like this team that runs it, right? In a way, narrowed down about 7 to 8 questions that we could probably go about with that both Kaustav sir and Geeta ma'am you could talk about. So over the past 1 hour, you mentioned about the foundations, the people, the money, the network, the support system. However, if you're already existing, you have some of these things placed in mind. Now, what do you do? So my first question is to both of you. If you're an already existing incubation center, you have programs running in a post-pandemic world, or maybe in a pandemic world, how do you go forth? How do you go to the next level? Over to you for the answer, ma'am. Answer.
Do you want to go for that, Kaustav?
Yep. Okay. I think it's a phenomenal question, Mustan, and I don't think I have the right answer. I don't think anybody does, but I'm still going to try what I think I would do. In many ways, it's quite similar to what Geeta and I do with many of our startups. None of us knew the pandemic's going to happen. It took us all by surprise. We made many plans for 2020, and substantial number of those plans are they most likely did not happen. A lot of people would argue the year was wasted. A lot of people would say it was a terrible year. One can look at it any which way you want to look at it. I don't look at it like that. I think it was a great year in many different ways. I think the world needed this year quite desperately. It was a year for us to reboot. It was a year for us to look at all the things that were not working and fix them. In a country of 130 crore people, we had 40,000 ventilators. The old normal was not all that great. The new normal should be better. Now, I think that's one way of looking at it. And it could be, entrepreneurs are obnoxiously optimistic, right? So it's hard for me to stay sad and pessimistic for too long. So from an entrepreneur's point of view, this year is going to be bad. How do I look? What do I do as the pandemic progresses, as we slowly come out of it, and what do we do tomorrow is something I'm perpetually looking. An incubator must think like an entrepreneur and must start thinking why those entrepreneurs are dying now, why they are going out of business. If an incubator, I have had major arguments with incubators in the last couple of months, and says our job is not to run their business. And I would say, yes, absolutely, your job is not to run their business, but your job is to provide them a safe environment. Sure, the pandemic has not been done by you, but you should provide them, you should assist them as much as you can with all your means and mechanisms and the ecosystem we were talking about to support them. To support them, you need to understand what's going wrong. And you need to figure out how they can come out of it tomorrow. Say, for example, I know of an incubator that I am associated with in the eastern part of the country. And they do a lot of work in the northeast. and we found out the number of companies are in the digital media space, right? And it's a number of startups, and they did not have businesses. So the businesses that and the businesses sort of, reduced. What was found out that we could do is create possible opportunity spaces within the ecosystem. So the startups just started working with each other, which is a huge, huge opportunity that emerged. I believe tomorrow's date incubators will work with each other quite extensively. I'm not sure the colleges succeeded in doing that all that much. There are turf wars and territorial challenges that is there perpetually. Incubators need not have that. Incubators must only remember that they exist to serve, and they exist to serve startups. Startups, when they start collaborating, I think survive much better. When you Professor Kothari was talking about the basic need to survive, and you survive very well when you figure out you can strike alliances quickly. And I think incubators have an opportunity of striking alliances. Ravi very interestingly said that tomorrow's incubators may find their own niche, right? If you're finding your own niche, maybe just imagine this for a second. It sounds a little weird, but then a Delhi-based a startup in an incubator in the engineering space may work with a Bangalore-based startup in an incubator from a managerial point of view to solve a problem in Shillong, right? So the point is, tomorrow's startups via the incubators, I think, will be able to work with each other better. It's already happening, but it's happening right now through individual खुद के उद्योग से हो रहे हैं अभी. It's still not happening as a part of a program. And I believe people such as Gaurav will be able to bridge that gap, right? And I'm sure there are others like Gaurav in different parts of the country who will be able to say, you know what, it's not about you and me. It's about the possibilities those startups can have, right? So I believe incubators must look at the problem from a startup's views and viewpoints, and must remember, if my startups die, I have failed.
Yeah.
They must own it up. And then they must sit down, spend time, worry, and figure out ways and means of how those startups will survive, and not say, it's not my problem. It is your problem. You exist to serve.
It's like how Geeta ma'am said, startups are your customers.
That's it. That's it. That's the only truth.
And Kaustav, if I may just add to what you're saying, the minute the thought process or the thinking evolves to this, right, you also bring a lot of financial synergy in the entire process. Sorry, I keep going back to money and the entire financial aspect every single time, because in my mind, I look at this as saying, how efficiently can you deploy capital by not having repeatedly doing the same things and duplicating it unnecessarily? So if there is something already created, why not make the most of it, right? One looks at wanting to scale, one looks at wanting to serve or utilize capacity to its maximum. So when capacity is created, the best thing is to have this kind of a network, and one should be looking in that direction then.
That actually surprisingly brings me to my next question, if I may. So we talked about incubation centers, we talked about why they must exist and who should make them exist, right? And you mentioned this one statement that today an incubator has to be, they have to be a job maker and not a job seeker. Like that's what they're enabling. So if I have to talk about an incubator that is going to exist or is already existing, what are the core values and the vision of an incubator? What should it look at? Apart from creating startups, because that's like, how do you go about it? I hope that's a tough one.
It is. You're making me think. I thought, okay, yeah. Geeta, shall I?
Yes, please go ahead, Kaustav.
I fall back on.
I actually quite like it when you start thinking like this.
Yeah. put me on a bit of a spot. I fall back on what Ravi said. Incubators will have their own maybe certain specific areas of operation. Need not be. They could also be very generalistic in nature. But a lot of us A lot of people sort of tell me, for example, one argument a lot of young people tell me, I ask them, why do you want to set up a business? And they say, मुझसे किसी और के लिए काम करना नहीं होता है. I want to operate myself. A lot of people say that. And I almost always tell them that is possibly the worst motivation to start a business. Contrary to popular belief. A young entrepreneur, irrespective of his age, a new business literally works for everybody. So the businessman or woman has got zillions of bosses, right? Now, if your motivation is to find a problem and then find a solution, that's possibly a better way of looking at business. Exactly the same way, I think incubators also need to ask questions of themselves. It's not a question of about supporting businesses. It's also a question of supporting what kind of businesses. Various academic institutions may have specific, like, investors have a thesis of what kind of investments they would want to do. I want to operate in the fintech space, or I want to operate in healthcare. So you decide, this is my area of comfort. Similarly, a lot of academic institutions may choose that this is the area that I would like to work on. And I believe it should be as part of a plan. I mean, if it's an engineering institution which believes that their area of expertise is construction, civil, electrical, mechanical, them supporting a business in biotech does not possibly make sense as much, right? So you would want to choose your area of work based on your other areas so that there is support that you can bring to the startups, right? You may want to start thinking that I'm going to build a research depth in my institution through my incubation and startup work. See, this is basically a sector level making a choice. Exactly the same way, I believe academic institutions and incubators have a huge responsibility of also choosing the kind of founders you're going to build. The world, and I'm sorry, this may sound a little idealistic, world at large, India definitely, we seem to be hung over by these crazy growth businesses right now. Business is still very simple. आप कुछ बनाइएगा जो 5 रुपए लगेगा, उसको आप बेचिएगा जो 7 रुपए में बेचोगे. तो 2 रुपए अब आपका नगद प्रॉफिट रहेगा, उसमें से आप टैक्स वैक्स.
Trading business.
Not just trading, any business. Even if you're making something, at the end of the day, it has to create value, right? It has to create value, and that value has to come out of a customer. But if you look at a substantial number of businesses in the last 10-15 years, value is unclear. So you're buying market share by using investor money. And the entire business is driven by, मैं रवि से पैसा लूँगा, लेके एक business बनाऊँगा, फिर वो business को मैं सचिन को बेच दूँगा, और उस बीच I will make some money in between, right? That seems to be the mechanism, and I believe academic institutions have a responsibility over there, and try and beat some proper sense into tomorrow's entrepreneurs and founders, and venture capital funds and the whole bunch. Kind of business that you are trying to make is crucial. Just business, it is our responsibility, right? Like when we would want our children to be a certain kind of citizen. Similarly, we should want our startups to be of a certain kind. Right? Every third business which comes to me claims that they have artificial intelligence in it, without any knowledge of what IoT is, what AI is, and it's a problem, right? And we sort of oversexed the word up so much that everybody they feel if you don't add these big buzzwords, I will not find funding. Right? These are the kind of help that I think incubators can give and tell them that boss, is tarah ki karne ki zarurat nahi hai. So I think these are the roles that an incubator will play. Sorry, long answer.
I would actually like to add one point. So like you mentioned this one statement, like Geeta ma'am, if I may, like it's an interesting conversation. So we actually started a video at the very start talking, said by Celia Gates at Mumbai Startup Fest. This was just one line that even you mentioned, which is, look for a problem, it will lead you to a solution. Like today, that would actually be one value that I thought of while in the conversation, that incubators could promote attitude, create mindset apart from startups, which is actually going to help them in the long run eventually. That could be a point, I don't know.
I think you're absolutely spot on. Geeta, you're on mute.
Yeah. I'm on mute. to check.
Geeta, try again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. But no, you're absolutely right, Mustan, because apart from kind of, building the, solving the challenges which exist or creating that niche or operating within a certain niche, and the whole attitude, right? That value or one of the core values will need to be that call to action. I think something which Kaustav also just wrote in the chat box. I was playing in my mind. I said, a lot. There, entrepreneurship by its very word or the very approach is action oriented. It is not just sitting back and saying ऐसा हो सकता है, वैसा हो सकता है, ये हो सकता है, or anything of that sort. And you need to think, but that thought process needs to also translate into action. So to support that or to encourage that aspect would be a very crucial role that an incubator needs to play.
That's very true. Ma'am, so Ravi, would you like to say something? Yeah.
Ravi is looking to
Okay,
add.
I'll have to unmute you. Yeah, go on. You have 30 seconds to pitch in your statement, Ravi.
Yes. So I was saying that like to the question of like vision of incubator, a lot of new incubator like they set a role model, like they want to become like a sign IIT Bombay. That's a very wrong approach, I guess. There should not be any role model when you are setting up your own incubator. You should look for your own strength of institute. Obviously, you cannot compete, you cannot become sign IIT Bombay unless and until you have everything in place like sign IIT Bombay has. So I guess any new incubator should not look for role model. Instead, they should, yeah.
Ravi, it's a wonderful point. Yeah, only recently there was a lot of conversation because of IPL. That is Sanju Samson going to be the new Mahendra Singh Dhoni? To which Sanju Samson very nicely said that it's impossible to become another Mahendra Singh Dhoni. What I can try and become is a very good Sanju Samson, right? I think it's maybe that Sanju Samson will be better than Dhoni, you never know. But the point is, it is now impossible to become another Sign IIT Mumbai because you cannot create all of those things exactly the same way that IIT Mumbai did. You cannot go back in the past. I think it's foolhardy of us to try and emulate. We should only learn from, inspirations, but we should to try and become another carbon copy of somebody in the past, just like it's foolhardy for an individual to do so, exactly the same way it's foolhardy for an incubator to do so. Plus, post-COVID, maybe we should not become like IIT Mumbai. We need to become far better. How about that?
Yeah.
All of us.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just quote someone from the chat box, the Professor Sheila Raghuvanshi. Be original, explore your best version. Very true, ma'am.
Very true.
So I actually because we're short of time, I'd actually like to play like a rapid fire round, like Kaun Banega Crorepati types. So I have one question, but two perspectives to it, and I hope that's all right. Okay, ma'am, if you're already an existing incubation center with maybe 2-3+ years of experience or startups or organization on board, mention 3 partners that you look forward to or might have on board, and you have 15 seconds to answer.
Oh my God, that's pressure, Mustan now.
three names you can think about, like partners that you could have with an already existing incubation center.
So that would mean in terms of network and collaborations and mentors, those kind of partnerships?
Open to you.
Okay, fine.
Any three important stakeholders that you could think of.
So when the first thing that comes to my mind is when 2-3 years an incubation center has been in existence, right? A lot of its startups would have started to show some degree of maturity. They would be looking to have customer access. So what kind of company or corporate network or partnerships can be created for that customer journey to get started off?
So like a corporate partnership in a way.
So let us say there are startups which are solving a certain kind, what should I say, a certain logistics kind of a problem, right? And there are companies, established companies, who can be potential customers or who can become channels to take them to further customers. So can the incubation center bring on board companies like that and partner with them?
Fair enough. 1 out of 3. Other two?
Oh Lord.
You
There
can
is,
pass, no worries.
yeah, though there is, of course, by 2-3 years, the other aspect which needs to be considered, there will be need for a larger amount of funding that the startups will want. So what kind of investor partnerships or what kind of money partnerships? So whether it is the government institutions like SIDBI and the likes of them, or banks or private sector setups that can be partnered with.
Okay, is that all that you have to answer, man? Done? Okay, first class. So the next question, no, sir, Costas. Okay, fine. Okay, give it. Yeah.
Three
You
partners
have a
that
different.
come to my mind.
No. Your question is different, sir.
No, I know, but then I would like to quickly add 3 partners.
Sure, go on.
Partner number 1 is, I think they need to get somebody like Gaurav, who has unbelievable. The
I wish
second
you heard that.
The second partner that they need to get is somebody like Geeta, who has access to capital and also how to deal with the capital. And the third partner, I think you need to go to those boring organizations like FICCI and CII and all those people. I think I find them very boring, but then they are necessary evil because they are the ones who can give you the customer access that Geeta is talking about. Ultimately, you need customers to pay for what you have made. उसके बिना कुछ नहीं है. Okay, my question.
Got buffer time. No worries. So the same question goes to you. The only difference is, what if you're a new incubation center? Now that's a tricky one.
So what if you're a new incubation center? What are the partners you must get? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
3 partners that you should have, or you would begin with, if it was your incubation center.
Okay. The CIIs of the world will not give you much bhav, unfortunately, unless your college is a big college.
CII yani ki for the normal center.
Confederated of Indian Industries, the
Oh,
CII,
okay, those.
the big ones, the big boys there. They won't give you much ghas unless you are a part of a very large college. If you're a smallish college, I don't think you will get much patta over there. So what I would typically do is try and create a very strong mentors network, either my own or with somebody else, and try and tag into that. That is essentially important. Ravi has written in the chat window your own alumni entrepreneurs. You may or may not have alumni entrepreneurs. If you are part of a smallish engineering college in somewhere in rural India, you possibly don't have too many alumni entrepreneurs. That's the other challenge. Having said that, you need people who would care about you. And I think alumni are the closest that you can get to. So an alumni stroke mentors network is the first thought that comes to my mind. The second thought that would come to my mind is that you need access still. You have to have access to the market. So you should be very careful about the kind of startups that you're going to support. So if you are, depending on you need to understand what is your capability to deliver as an incubator, right? So if I want to, for example, support businesses in agro-tech, as an example, I'm saying, I need to have a mechanism of supporting agro-tech. I, for one, don't. I don't understand that industry well. If I do not have the mechanism to support those startups, I actually should not be in that space at all, right? Because if I take
fair point
and are unable to give them the support, then I have done something uninjustice. So the second point would be market access is crucial. If I don't have access to national chambers of commerces, do I have access to regional chambers of commerces? Possibly everybody can get regional chambers of commerce. So market access is crucial. And the third is money. It's not just a question of finding funding, but it is also giving them proper fiscal discipline of what to do with money. You have to remember,
that's important.
Only 1 out of 100 possibly find money. Only 1 out of 100. So there's 99 more who needs financial discipline. That knowledge is crucial. And how do you give that knowledge? So you make sure that you figure out a mechanism somehow of getting into that segment. How do you do that? Maybe the local chartered accountants community could be one way of doing it. That's what I do. Everywhere I am, whichever city I am, I plug into that community. They're the ones who are managing money. They're the ones who have access to banks. So try and figure out that bit, right? So 3, market access, A, mentors network, and wherever the money is.
Chambers. I do have maybe if you were given one more choice to make, wouldn't you go for something in the lines of creating awareness? because you're new, you won't have a community to begin with. So how wouldn't you probably work on that as well?
So Mustansir,
I hope my answer's clear. Question's
it's
clear.
a great question. I am amongst some of the businesses that I'm directly associated with. I do a lot of work in the digital media space. I do a lot of work in brands, right? In trying to build brands. When I speak to young startups, generally they tend to say, "Sir, अभी हमारे पास पैसा नहीं है. जब पैसा होगा, तब मैं brand बनाऊंगा." And I almost always tell them, उस तरह से आपके पास कभी पैसा नहीं होगा, right? On the contrary, younger businesses need more brand support than the bigger ones do. So your question is great. Your question is perfect. That you should ideally try and figure out how to build a brand. But your question was, what are the 3 networks you will clog into? The fact of the matter is, none of us want to associate it with small unknown brands, even on a personal level, unless somebody else has tried it. So your job becomes harder to try and build a brand because there is nobody to support you, right? There is no network which will support you. So my recommendation thereby to every startup is that you must understand how to build brands and how to sell, just like you must understand how to read a balance sheet. These are 2 basic stuff that you must do. You must know how to sell. You must know how to figure out the basics of setting up a brand because nobody will help you in that. This, right. So I hope that answers your question somewhat. I'm not undermining its importance. It's possibly more important than the 3 points that I said. It's just that there is no network to support largely. Maybe Gaurav will build one.
Sure. Let's go. Lovely. So Geeta ma'am, any additions to these points right now? You can go to the final question otherwise.
No, let's go to the final question. I mean, there are,
Way more time.
much we can have in terms of the kind of networks that need to be created, because it's no different when you're starting without an incubation center. Also, when somebody starts a business, there are so many different aspects which need to be covered, to be looked into. Each of those areas, you can think of building a network or creating that network within the incubation space, because there are all those startups who will need it at some stage or the other.
That's a lovely answer. So in fact, before we cut to the final question, I would like all the audiences, are you guys there? It's a Saturday evening. Just in case, I mean, because Geeta just pointed it out, would you like to do another session? Because I'm enjoying this. If you want another session or anything on these lines, just put up a thumbs up or a okay or a yes or like a woohoo in the chat box. You guys have like 10 seconds. Quickly. Only 3, 4, 5, 6. Counting. 7, 8, 9. Bad number. 10. Then it's 20%. Oh, someone posted a question. Okay, fair enough. Good response. Lovely. Awesome. So that, okay, so ma'am, so ma'am, you'll have to come back again next Saturday, same time. Till then, saudhan rahiye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. You've been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely. So we don't want to do the last question because I have a yes, no question in the end to conclude.
Okay. Is there any yes, no
Like
question?
I mean, I'm not sure if it will be taken in one, but okay. The only thing, we have laid down all the foundations. However, like we have money in place, we have partnerships, all the external stakeholders, all the internal stakeholders are in place. However, the one thing that is the most important, like the oil in a petrol car, I don't know if that is the right metaphor, but sorry for the team that is going to run the incubation center. Do they need training? And are there courses, or is there a way that they can be trained? Because it's entrepreneurship, you cannot teach them, right? But is there a way to teach them? Yes or no, if you would like.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, it's not yes, no, absolutely.
So there is a method of training there. Geeta ma'am seems happy. Would you like to answer, ma'am?
Without a doubt, Mustan, without a doubt.
There is no such training available per se. There are plenty of people who conduct various workshops. I'm sure there are good ones available. But honestly speaking,
is it important?
100%, because it's a very hard, setting up a business is hard. What you are doing is you're helping a whole bunch of other people to set up their businesses. So it's get harder. So you need to have the right kind of people to support the incubation center. Setting up the right kind of team is crucial. They need to be entrepreneurial in nature. They need to understand what the businesses they're going to support. It's not an easy task. And I think not only they need training, every one of us, we all need training. You need constant training, because it's never a sort of a binary stage where you have now, oh, today I have learned how to do this and tomorrow onwards I'm going to become very good at this. It's not like that. It needs constant watering and mentoring on a regular basis, even the ones who are running incubators.
Can I get mentorship, please? Fair enough. So, I mean, that brings us to the end of the fireside session. So yeah, it's been a lovely session till now. I hope both all of the attendees we have got a real valuable insights out of all the 3 modules that we covered. Chirag sir, over to you.
Yeah, hi ma'am and sir. Thanks for the entire session. It's been really helpful, and I guess we already have good response from everyone. I think we're gonna have to get you here again next week or whenever the time suits best, both of you. Mustan, again, thanks for the entire fireside chat, all the great questions and all those.
No challenge.
Yeah.
So, without any further ado, ma'am, Geeta ma'am, Kaustav, so if you have any closing remarks, you may.
So, Geeta, I'm just very grateful that you guys are so patient on a Saturday evening. So you truly care about entrepreneurship. That fills my heart with hope. Thank you for having us over here. We are very grateful, and I am even more grateful to everybody else who decided to hang around. I hope to see you guys sometime soon, either on Zoom or hopefully in reality, in real life, and have a cup of coffee with you guys. Take care of all of you.
Likewise, thank you for expressing the same thoughts that even I had, Kaustav. I mean, it has been a pleasure being here this evening. Thank you, everyone, and especially all our friends out there who've been listening to us very patiently with all your interesting questions and the encouragement to continue and want more of these sessions. Hope to come back again sometime whenever we can.
Bye, guys.
So
Bye.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. That brings us to the end of the session, guys. Stay tuned for more updates. We'll keep doing all this, and make sure you guys have a great incubation center. It's the most important thing in the market right now. You are going to create the next gen leaders, the next entrepreneurs, the next economy. Like, everything's in your hand.
These
I can't
guys
exaggerate more about this.
These guys are going to make India move from a U-shaped recovery to a V-shaped recovery.
My economy is bad. You'll have to teach that to me.
With those words, thank you.
Lovely. Have a good evening, guys. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend. Enjoy. Stay safe.
God bless.
Good night, guys.